strange music means anything.
So, before we continue on to more witch arcs, there is a little something I've wanted to get out of my head since Arc 2, and that is the theory of, is Nerissa a victim? A victim of what? Well, you decide after the evidence that I present you. What this all boils down to is, could Nerissa have a deeper motivation? Sure, we know that she's out to destroy Kandrakar and get the heart of Kandrakar, but could there be more reason behind it? I'm a fan of another little show you might know of called Once Upon a Time, and one of their biggest mantras was, evil isn't born, it's made. Many times Nerissa speaks about the indifference of Kandrakar. Over and over we hear that Kandrakar is to blame for Nerissa's situation. What if it wasn't about something Kandrakar did, but rather something Kandrakar refused to do? Now, mind you, quick disclaimer. Just because something awful or bad has happened to you in the past, it does not justify you turning evil or doing evil in response to that. Okay, let's carry on. First, I'll present the evidence of there possibly being something deeper behind her motivations, and then we're going to break down further to what those motivations could possibly be. First things first, it's important to know that we're going to be pulling from both the show and the comics. However, we're treating the comics as the main universe, with the TV providing supplemental information. Just because they are essentially two different universes, there is possibility that things that happened in one universe could still have happened in another. Nerissa's transformation into evil was not instant. The chapter books provided information through the means of a character's thoughts. Each chapter was inside the mind of a specific character. The evidence here is going to be pulled from chapters from the point of view of the Oracle, Yanlin, Kadma, and Nerissa herself. The first evidence of this comes in chapter book number 18, page 47. The Oracle is pondering to himself, saying that Nerissa was able to marshal the heart's power to do amazing things, but then, slowly, she was consumed and corrupted by its power. Later in chapter book 20, the Oracle thinks again. Nerissa started as a force for good, but over time changed completely, coveting the heart and its power for herself. She had forsaken her responsibilities as a guardian and begun to use the heart for selfish purposes. Cassidy had seen the danger and warned the Oracle. But what could have driven Nerissa to a breaking point, to the point that she would betray her friends and her responsibilities that she held so dear? In chapter book 16, from Yanlin's point of view on page 54, she says, "Together we faced all kinds of danger. We were a fine group, until Nerissa decided to use the heart for selfish reasons." Let's dig further. My first theory centers on Nerissa potentially having had a dark and neglectful home life. In chapter book 19, on page 80, Kadma thinks to herself, Nerissa had once been a force for good, but she'd changed over the years, and slowly began to use the heart for her own selfish ends. She'd bullied and overpowered innocent people to improve her position or flatter her vanity. And she had not used the heart for its intended purpose, to battle evil, but just to keep herself safe. The Oracle knew all that, of course. He'd been watching Nerissa all along, but he'd also been waiting. So if Nerissa wasn't using the heart of Kandrakar's power to fight evil, by Kandrakar's definition, then what was she using it to keep herself safe from? A neglectful home life may not be considered evil by the scope of Kandrakar. Generally, Kandrakar only steps in when there is a world threat or a universal threat. There would be nothing the Oracle or the Guardians could do against Nerissa's parents. It is potentially so that Nerissa started using her powers of the heart to defend herself and maybe even lash out against her parents. We know that Nerissa believes family members as being either a weak point or something to be used against her enemies. In chapter book 16, page 89, as she observes them at Camp Cormoran, she thinks to herself, family members, they could come in handy later. Now, there is a cycle often talked about in psychology where people from neglectful and cruel situations may often repeat the behavior of their toxic parents. In chapter book 18 on page 129, we are at the point in the story where Nerissa takes back some of her power from her nights of revenge in order to make herself young again. Nerissa is lamenting having become an old witch, and when she chooses to begin taking some of their power, she states, I just want you to repay some of the life that I gave you. It won't hurt. Not much anyway. But believe me, it'll hurt me more than it hurts you. This sentiment immediately made me think of situations where neglectful parents will often bring up their child's mere existence as reason for ultimate respect or servitude, when that is in fact not the case. But this could be something that Nerissa heard constantly and consistently from either her mother or her father. In the chapter book, we see further context into Nerissa's thoughts. When Nerissa tells them it won't hurt them as much as it hurts her, she thinks to herself that lies had always been her stock and trade, her standby. The word always is very powerful here. This means that even when Nerissa was good, she could have been lying. Potentially lying about the security and safety of her home life, potentially hiding her feelings of fear and shame and anger regarding her situation. In chapter book 19, on page 38, from Nerissa's point of view, the chapter begins, Mount Thanos was not what it initially seemed to be. On the outside, glacial winds chilled a barren landscape and gave the appearance of calm. On the inside, it was a different story. Molten lava seethed and churned. Nerissa was just the same. The key point to truly understanding Nerissa is to look at the nights that she created. In chapter book 19, page 40, she tells Shagon that they are nothing more than expendable extensions of my own will. Shagon himself being the incarnation of Nerissa's own hate. In this instance, Shagon is defending something that Ember and Tridart, her Knights of Ice and Fire, have done. In her mind, Nerissa refers to them as the Fire and Ice couple. It is my belief that Tridart and Ember stand in place of Nerissa's own feelings toward her parents. As the Knights are extensions of Nerissa's own will, it is very interesting the forms that she chose to give each. Ember is the only female of the Knights. Hor and Shagon were created from already living beings. We'll get to them later. However, Tridart and Ember were created from the fire and ice surrounding her. Ember may be portrayed as female because Nerissa is female, but that doesn't justify why Tridart is not also presented as female. Ember represents pain. Based on what we can see on the surface, it could be potentially that Nerissa's mother was somebody that brought great pain, a fiery presence in Nerissa's life. Tridart represents despair, and in the show, fear.
Here's the definition of desperation. A state of despair, typically one which results in rash or extreme behavior.
Nerissa's father could potentially be someone that she feared or somebody that presented such great indifference to her and indifference to the pain brought on by her mother. Could Nerissa have used the power of the heart to take out her parents? In chapter book 19, page 45, Nerissa thinks about the oracle, saying the oracle was so vague, so weak, he lacked the will to put a swift, violent end to his enemies. Could the years and years of abuse have taken its toll? Towards the final battle, Nerissa meets with Will in a dream sequence, in a strange house, unfamiliar to Will and unfamiliar to the Heatherfield landscape. It appears to be an old, decrepit cottage. Could this have been Nerissa's home when she was a guardian with her parents? Here, during Nerissa's greatest victory, she brings Will to belittle her. Could this be her asserting herself over a place of immense pain? Will calls her scared and is able to break away. It is only later that Nerissa admits to herself in chapter book 20 on page 112. She feels taunted by Will calling her afraid, and later Cornelia calling her a coward, and she says to herself, perhaps they were right, but in a million centuries she would never admit it. To cap off this theory, I want us to look at some clips from the television show, where they took an interesting idea into making Nerissa Caleb's mother. With this theory in our mind, these clips create a whole different meaning. Nerissa may be repeating the cycle that she once experienced.
My blood flows through your veins. You belong to me. We leave here at once.
But the Guardians are down. We can destroy them all.
You question my orders? My visions? Disobedience will result in total disaster. Every time.
Her lashing out at Ember only provides more strength for this. It's also important to note the scenes with the memory room where Trill and Elion go to view her parents.
You may meet your parents, Your Majesty, in memories.
I don't have any memories of them.
But Trill does, and in the ancient meditation chamber, your own power can put you both into a trance, allowing you to interact with her remembrances.
Remember, Trill was later revealed to be Nerissa. The Browns only had good things to say about Elion's parents.
And what were she and my father really like? Did they love me?
Queen Wera and the royal consort Xaden loved you more than life.
You were the true jewel in their crown.
They would likely not be lying. Could Nerissa have been using her own memories of her family to influence Elion? It's highly possible that these are truly Nerissa's memories, glamored to look like Elion's family.
Ugh, the brat never stops crying. Where is Trill?
Oh, but she wants changing.
I am queen. You are consort. Now!
Your Highness,
Do not make me wait again, Trill, or you'll force me into another punishment.
No, Highness, no, please.
Must I listen to that incessant wailing?
Hobos?
No, my precious pet. Well, take it away.
Stupid whelp.
She keeps the peasants happy. But you, my son, are the true heir to my heart.
The second theory brings us to the subject of love. It is my belief that Shagon represents a past love of Nerissa's, someone that she feels immense hatred towards. Sure, Shagon was created from a man that seemed to just stumble into Mount Thanos. However, it is the interesting choice of words Nerissa uses to describe her reasoning for choosing him. In chapter book 17, page 27, as she's talking to Kor, she says, "You will be accompanied by the most powerful emotion of all, hate. Here is the raw material. It is a man." I found it very interesting that she chose not to use the word human, and that it is deliberately a man that is the raw material for hate. Again, the knights are extensions of Nerissa's own will, and she refers to him as the incarnation of her own hate. Chapter book 19, page 42, Shagon says to Nerissa, "I am your faithful servant, like the others." But Nerissa knew that wasn't true. He was not created from lifeless elements. He had a face, pale and blank, like a puppet's, strung out on Nerissa's dark spell. At one point she says to him, "I should punish you, but if I did, I would do so with hate." It was how she'd created him, channeling her own centuries-old rage. In chapter book 22, page 106, Nerissa muses on love, calling it a scam, and that she never understood it. It had no benefits, required sacrifice. She only understood hate. Chapter book 20, page 94. Nerissa shook her head. In her view, love was for fools, like Cassidy. Nerissa remembered something the Oracle had liked to say about love. Love weakens the knees and clouds the mind. But what power lies behind this weakness? What power? Nerissa's mind echoed what the Oracle had said. None. And that was his mistake. Now here's where my theory is going to get even crazier. What if there was something going on between Nerissa and the Oracle? Chapter book 19, page 17. While talking to Tibor, the Oracle says, "I am not infallible," he reminded Tibor. Nerissa is living proof of that. Chapter book 20, page 23. The Oracle sighed again as he observed Halen and Eric struggling with their feelings. Imagine how many problems could be solved if only boys and girls could read each other's thoughts. But who knows? With abilities like that in human hands, it would only equal more problems. Chapter book 19, page 45, from Nerissa's point of view. He couldn't bring himself to destroy me. He couldn't even pronounce a limitless sentence. He thought I might repent, change, and see the light of day again. Now you could argue that this is just the Oracle being a kind and gentle soul by not giving her a limitless sentence, by giving her a way out of her sentence in the form of the powers fusing into one, in that the Oracle is an omnipotent being. Let's look at this discussion between Yenlin and Tibor. Chapter book 20, page 95. I thought the elders of Kandrakar were immune to terrestrial feelings, such as anxiousness or anguish. Tibor responds by saying, I once thought so myself, but you'll soon see that we're not. I realized that 20,000 years ago. This proves that the people of Kandrakar can still experience the feelings of living people.
Did Tibor see what happened to the Oracle and Nerissa?
In the past, we have seen the Oracle feeling anxious and depressed, even scared. Who's to say that he could not feel love, and that he did not feel love for the guardian Nerissa? By even giving Nerissa a sentence that allowed an out, he already paints himself into a corner. Chapter book 20, page 99. Yenlin is getting angry and asking Tibor why no one intervened between Nerissa and Cassidy. Tibor goes on edge and warns Yenlin to calm down and chill out. On page 100, Tibor is thinking to himself that if Yenlin does not calm down, she will suffer the consequences. Tibor closed his eyes. Yenlin, you have a valued place here, he told her silently. Do not allow your fears to cloud your higher vision. Now that you are here, do not let yourself descend into anger and doubt. Tibor well knew the consequences that were in store for Yenlin had she continued in that manner. Luba's fate alone had proved that even an elder of Kandrakar had to answer for his or her actions. No one was above reproach. Mind you, for simply combining the Oramirs, Luba was sentenced to be sacrificed in the name of Kandrakar. If you look back at her death scene, the Oracle says that her destiny was sacrifice. Tibor refers to this as a consequence of the actions. Perhaps the Oracle did not feel that he was yet ready to withstand Nerissa, both her charm and his feelings for her. As she approaches Kandrakar, you can see numerous times where the Oracle blushes. With this theory in mind, what else could that be? As Nerissa approaches Kandrakar with her knights, they pass the Tower of Mists. She says, I remember this place, the Tower of Mists. Those hypocrites in the congregation don't have the guts to call it by its real name, but that's Kandrakar's prison. Do not talk about peace. There's none here. You have no idea how many secrets lie within these walls. The congregation's not above resorting to evil means for the greater good. In the name of justice, the Oracle committed unforgivable crimes. This tower conceals his mistakes. Once the fortress is mine, I'll tear it open. But I don't know if I'll be able to look into that abyss. It appears that Nerissa has information about the Tower of Mists that no other person seems to be privy to. She calls the congregation and the Oracle hypocrites.
Here's the definition of hypocrisy. The practice of claiming to have moral standards or beliefs to which one's own behavior does not conform. Pretense.
Numerous times, the Oracle breaks his oath of not intervening. We saw that multiple times in Arc 3, and we will see the consequences of this in the upcoming Arc 4 video. But this gives justice to Nerissa's words. As the Oracle stated earlier, he is not infallible, which means he does have weaknesses. The Oracle has been known to alter the memories of the Guardians. We see him do it to W.I.T.C.H when he feels they are not ready to confront Nerissa. Is it possible that the Oracle did this to Yan Lin's group as well? Chapter book 18, page 49, the Oracle thinks to himself. The original Guardian's courage and dignity had inspired the Oracle for many years after that, referring to Nerissa's trial. They had carried on their work and remained faithful to the temple. This contradicts the belief of Halinor and Cadma that they were immediately rejected from Kandrakar once they questioned the Oracle. Chapter book 20, page 58. Yan Lin appears to Hei Lin in a dream. This is after the girls had already forgotten Nerissa and remembered her again. The Oracle has refused Yan Lin to step in and speak to the Guardians. She is very afraid to say much and can only say very little. She says to her, "Never let your memories slip away." And she thinks to herself, she had come to terms with an important lesson long ago. The universe, while granting many blessings, also required sacrifice. It is almost as if Yan Lin has remembered that she had forgotten something. In the legend, she reminds Hei Lin of the oak and the reed, and asks her which is stronger in a storm. At first, Hei Lin thinks it's the oak, and Yan Lin understands why she thinks this. But, she says, in a storm, the mighty oak eventually breaks. Where it tried to stand tall and still and not bend, it met its demise. Perhaps Yan Lin felt she stood too strongly with the side of Kandrakar, with the black and white, and feels that maybe she should have went with Cadma and Halinor. Could it be that the Oracle wiped the true memory of what happened between him and Nerissa? They mentioned numerous times that she started to be vain with the heart. But could it be that she just could not wrap her head around why no one had helped her? Again, in chapter book 20, page 99, Yan Lin is angry that nobody intervened. Yan Lin says to Tibor, "Nerissa," she whispered, "I still remember the day I met her. I understood right away that she was a special person." She was, Tibor said, before her desire to possess the heart had corrupted her. What I can't understand is how that was possible. Yan Lin's posture stiffened. Why didn't anyone stop it from happening? She stepped closer to Tibor, her voice rising as the questions continued to bubble up. Why didn't the Oracle stop Nerissa? Why did he allow her to take Cassidy's life? Watch what you're saying, Yan Lin. Tibor's old eyes immediately flashed a warning at the former Guardian. Even back when the Changeling was created, the Oracle at first says, "Once that happens, even I cannot hope to predict what will follow." Which is a lie if that get-out clause was put into Nerissa's sentence. And later, when all of the elements have merged into Cornelia, and we get the montage of Mount Thanos, Tibor asks if the coming chaos is Luba's fault. The Oracle doesn't actually answer his question. He just responds with, "My sweet friend is tired. She has watched over the droplets for too long. We left her to guard immense powers alone for too long. Let's go. The council awaits." He just completely glosses over his concerns and doesn't answer whether or not she's responsible. When the council is ready to judge Luba for her actions, one of the members said, "We must set an example with her punishment. The congregation was too merciful with Nerissa." The Oracle then yells, "Silence." Nerissa's punishment reflected her terrible crime. Then there is a flashback of her sentencing. The flashback only says that the sentence is this: trapped in the depths of Mount Thanos, stripped of her powers, without company or aid, it is decided. And in this memory, she yells, "Curse you, I'll be back, and you'll regret it getting in my way." It is interesting that in this memory that he's reminding the council of, he leaves out the part where she had a get out clause. You may remember in one of my Arc 2 videos where I claimed Yan Lin lied when she was telling the original story of the Guardians to the girls. This was referring to how Cadma said Yan Lin had not told the whole truth. So when Yan Lin told the girls of the backstory with Nerissa, she did not say anything about the Oracle handing the heart over to Cassidy, which then resulted in the power struggle. She simply said that Nerissa got vain and they had to fight her. with Cassidy dying. Cadma tells the truth that the heart was given to Cassidy, taken from Nerissa, given to Cassidy. It's just strange that she would leave that detail out. Now, we're jumping a little bit ahead of ourselves here, but in Arc 4, it is said that only the custodian of the heart can give up the heart. So that means that the heart had to be given willingly back to the Oracle, because even the Oracle can't just take the heart back. So something did truly happen between them that nobody is discussing, that Nerissa had to have willingly given the heart to the Oracle, only for him to then give it to Cassidy. In this case, I guess we'll never truly know. Another case of the Oracle not answering Tibor's questions are when he is watching them from the memory crystal. Tibor says, "I don't understand why this happened." Then the Oracle just goes into a relay of the most recent events, the changeling, Caleb being brought back to life, Nerissa taking him. When they are standing outside the Oblivious Cosmos, where Caleb is being housed to regenerate his memories, the Oracle asks Tibor, "I feel you still have questions, Tibor." Tibor coughs and says, "It's because I like the sound of answers, sir." And then, of course, he doesn't answer him. He just starts talking about the Oblivious Cosmos, which has nothing to do with what they were just talking about and what Tibor asked. Very shady, if you ask me. We'll delve deeper into that in a later video. In the third theory, we confront the most obvious of situations. Referenced multiple times by multiple characters, Nerissa slowly changed. She was slowly corrupted by the power of the heart. It is my theory that the heart contains a sixth element, the element of darkness. Through the thoughts and feelings of these characters, we see a Nerissa that is fearful. Perhaps the earlier situations discussed allowed the heart to use its dark powers to corrupt Nerissa's spirit. Once again, referring to Once Upon a Time, you'll see the show often represents magic as a kind of drug. The show Once Upon a Time often presents magic as an addictive substance, especially when it comes to dark magic. Chapter book 19, page 46. From the point of view of Nerissa, the very thought of the heart made her swoon. It had been everything to her, like a beating organ. It had been a part of her body, mind, and spirit. Its pulsing light sustained her, fed every fiber of her being. When the Oracle took it from her, she had lost her mind. It is my belief that Nerissa discovered the dark element within the heart. How do we prove that dark magic was in the heart? Chapter book 16, page 85. Nerissa thinks to herself, "No mere girl could master the heart's true power. Only I know how to handle it." Chapter book 18, page 47. From the Oracle's point of view, Nerissa was able to marshal the heart's true power to do amazing things. But then, slowly, she was consumed and corrupted by its power. Chapter book 19, page 15. The Oracle is speaking about the heart's heaviness on Will. It is the heaviness of the heart of Kandrakar. The conflict within Will was nothing new to the Oracle. He had witnessed such internal struggles many times. The worlds over which Kandrakar watched were like vast blue pools. Each one swirled and churned with millions of different waves, millions of different beings struggling with one another and with themselves. One small stone could cause a ripple in any one of those pools. The ripple might at first appear minor, but the Oracle knew it could build in strength and effect. It could change a wave's direction and destiny. It could push a being one way or another, toward the darkness or the light. This was not an easy thing for a young mind to grasp, and Will was struggling with it now. What had happened to Nerissa could happen to any being, even to Will herself. He had watched evil take shape and injustice reign. His efforts to protect the good were not always successful, not even in Kandrakar, and that was what pained him the most. When later discussing Nerissa, he says, "The Oracle had seen in Nerissa only goodness and strength, courage and light. She was like the smooth, calm surface of a pool. The Oracle could not then foresee the ripples that would one day flow through her, the storms that would form in her spirit, nor could he foresee the terrible choices she would one day make. He could only watch and react when she finally made them." There was nothing he could do to change Nerissa's will. Good and bad were present in every being, magical or ordinary, mortal or immortal. One had to choose for oneself. With this quote in mind, it seems the heart of Kandrakar may have housed both the element of light and dark. However, this darkness seems to be kept secret, with Kandrakar only wishing to portray and embrace the light. When Nerissa goes to create her knights, we see a talisman around her neck. This talisman contains the image of the heart of Kandrakar with a crack through it. It is possible that before Nerissa went into her prison, she siphoned some of the dark magic within the heart to hold on to. It is true that all of Nerissa's powers were stripped from her before she was placed into Mount Thanos. However, Nerissa was able to choose what she wore. Chapter book 18, page 48, the Oracle's point of view, he says, she had insisted on wearing a bright purple gown. Well, she'd also chosen to wear said necklace. It is possible that the congregation thought this was just purely a statement, when in fact, this talisman housed dark magic. We first see the symbol of Nerissa being used in a dark manner when she first stains Will's spirit with it. In a dream sequence, Nerissa locates Will and burns her with this symbol. After Will is marked by Nerissa, they head to Yanlin, where she then describes who Nerissa is. Yanlin transfers the mark from Will to herself. Will at first believes the mark to be gone, but Yanlin holds up her hand. The pain never completely disappears. It hides, fades, but it's always ready to strike again. It is possible that the dark magic fed away at Nerissa, making her mummified. When Nerissa is contemplating on how she created the knights, she thinks to herself about the power she has. Chapter book 18, page 128, from Nerissa's point of view. To create her knights, she had used the power she carefully hoarded over the many years of exile. It appears that once Nerissa created her knights, some of the darkness escaped her. Chapter book 18, page 127, Nerissa's point of view. For centuries, the only emotion Nerissa had felt was rage, crowding all fear and pain out of her mind. Anger fueled her spirit and consumed her every thought. But not much later, when she contemplates taking some of the knight's powers back, she thinks this to herself. At worst, it would destroy them, and Nerissa would be alone and powerless once more. That was the one thought that pierced her hardened heart and exposed the dark core of fear that still lay within her. With courage and confidence, she would bend fate to her will. Without all of the power she had siphoned within her, she had begun to feel fear. She began to feel alone and scared, something that darkness tends to prey on. After she reabsorbs power from the knights and makes herself young again, in her mind, she says, she no longer, if she had ever, cared what became of them. Just prior, she did care what became of them. She was afraid that she was going to be left alone. And then once the power's back into her, she only had the negative thoughts again. Even Nerissa refers to her magic multiple times as dark. Chapter book 19, page 48, Nerissa's point of view. For many weeks now, Nerissa had been using her dark magic to spy on the Guardians. Chapter book 22, page 2. Even Haylin can see that Nerissa is dark magic. After Will absorbs the heart of Cassidy, mind you, made of pure light. This is how Haylin describes the difference between Will and Nerissa's magic. When Will had carried the heart of Kandrakar, radiant light had always shone from its center. But under Nerissa's spell, the dazzling pendant turned blacker than an eclipse. Then the heart cracked. Like dark blood from a gaping wound, thick black fluid flowed from the heart of Kandrakar and rained down inside the temple. A sea of darkness was swiftly blotting out the pure, shining light of the temple. Beauty and good were being suffocated under a flood of ugliness and evil. This dark ooze is coming from within the heart. A heart that's been influenced by darkness. A heart where the light has been removed, and only the darkness has reigned. In the dream sequence, they trap Nerissa within the heart, and when she blasts her power out, she turns into a dark fog. It's potentially at this point that Nerissa further poisoned and pushed the heart towards darkness, because it is after this point that Will begins to be open to suggestion, gets very doubtful, very depressed. The darkness in the heart is preying on her. more evidence for the dark element being an addictive power. Chapter book 16, page 70, Nerissa's point of view. Her eyes glazed over and her soul shrieked, "It's mine. The heart is mine." She felt no remorse for her many victims. Every moment she spent away from the heart, she was in sheer agony, clearly showing withdrawal and possibly the dark part that Nerissa siphoned, yearning and craving to get back to its home, to make itself whole again. Chapter book 18, page 126, Nerissa is thinking about Caleb. She says she had hoped to find a kindred spirit buried within him. After all, she knew he had once served the dark and evil Prince Phobos. But Caleb had been influenced by the spirit of Kandrakar, with its lofty notions of loyalty and peace. Here, Nerissa is saying that she hoped to find that there would be some darkness in Caleb due to his dark influence, just as she has darkness inside of her from the dark influence of the heart. However, Caleb's path have changed, and Nerissa herself has been cooking in darkness for centuries. I believe that the dark element brings dark thoughts and dark feelings to its holder, just as the light element of the heart brings joy and happiness. Strangely, in the beginning, when we first meet Nerissa, this is something going through her head. Chapter book 16, page 83, Nerissa's point of view. She could hardly wait for the first phase of her plan to get underway. What is more painful, watching and waiting, or taking a flying leap into this volcano? These lines here show a conflict within Nerissa. There's this strong urge in her to enact this plan of revenge, but then there's also a part of her that is just wondering if it could just end by her jumping into the volcano. To me, that's a part of Nerissa that's crying out, that doesn't want to do this. But unfortunately, the darkness has won in her. So I hope that I presented enough evidence to explain my headcanon. And again, this is all mostly speculation, but stuff that could very easily be written into the story or even have been a possible intention. All we know that is concrete is that the Oracle has definitely some shadiness going on about him, and that there was definitely something deeper that had happened between him and Nerissa, and not everybody's story lines up. It was important that I finally get this out here because this video kind of is the building blocks to many of my other theories that I'm going to be coming up with here. Just to kind of share them, I have a theory of where could the sixth element be now. I mean, we know that Nerissa faded into pretty much darkness or sand or whatever she turned into. She faded into something, into Kandrakar. So, where could the darkness be now? Also, I have a theory on there being a sixth guardian that has not been revealed or could have been revealed. And also a potential link between Arube, Nerissa, and Will that I won't share too many details on right now, but eventually. Well, thanks for watching. Please comment below on your thoughts and theories. I'd love to hear them. I really do love seeing the comments. They make my day. Thank you for continuing to watch and support these. The Arc 4 video is in pre-production, and that's it. Catch you next time.